Well, indeed, a very good evening to you. This is KTN Prime on this Friday, the 27th day of April 2012. I'm James Karani, and this evening, blessings of rain, but of course, a terrible situation on the ground. Several people dying across the country, and here in the capital, a terrible traffic situation.
Absolutely, but we're glad that you could make time to join us this evening. I am Anne Kiguta. Also joining us this evening, KTN's Anne Soy Mwendia. Anne, good to see you. What's coming up?
Well, the ICC beckons. The trial chamber, the trial court has been constituted with three judges. I'll be bringing that up very shortly. That means that it's all systems go for the ICC.
And it seems to be moving really fast. With every international ruling that there is, Kenya's case moves one step closer to D-Day.
Exactly, and I think it goes contrary to the expectations of many people. And we're actually seeing that the ICC is actually following its schedule, because it was scheduled to constitute this court by the 5th of May. We're still in April and they're already set to go.
Absolutely. Well, we'll wait for those details from you. But first, let's take a look at the stories that are making headlines in your world this hour.
ICC names Ocampo 4 judges as Regional Assembly pushes for local trials.
We have launched a mobile registration to reach out to people in remote areas which could not access these services.
New government agency to oversee issuance of IDs and passports.
Rain's nightmare as floods cause chaos across Kenya.
Alifanya masaha pale huyo goalkeeper lakini naye huyu mdaraga lakini huyu striker.
Goal! Siamini macho yangu. Siamini.
And who's the loudest? Football commentator trials kick off in Nairobi. The East African Legislative Assembly now says it will ask the region's presidents to petition the International Criminal Court to refer the cases against the 4 Kenyans to the Arusha Assembly.
Now, the Assembly has already approved a resolution. Now, this resolution is to petition the Hague-based court to suspend the cases and refer the files to the Arusha-based East African Court of Justice. This comes as President Mwai Kibaki is preparing to chair a summit of the region's heads of state in Arusha tomorrow. KTN's Samuel Gina with the full details.
As President Mwai Kibaki left Jomo Kenyatta International Airport late Friday afternoon to chair the 10th Extraordinary East Africa Heads of State Summit in Arusha, Tanzania, scheduled for Saturday, the main question remained, will the East African presidents discuss and endorse resolutions by the East African Legislative Assembly to refer the Ocampo 4 cases to Arusha? The Heads of State Summit comes against the backdrop of the region's renewed efforts to compel an adjournment and ask the ICC to refer the Kenyan cases to the Arusha-based East African Court of Justice.
In the meantime, I call on Kenyans to remain calm even as we pursue the option of having a local mechanism.
Key issues to be discussed at the summit include the application by South Sudan to join the regional bloc and the report of the Council of Ministers on the proposed attainment of a single customs territory and appointment of a new Deputy Secretary General from Uganda. But the East Africa Legislative Assembly has other plans.
The summit of the EACs will have a sitting it's an extraordinary summit which is being held tomorrow in Arusha. So hopefully the resolution will make it to the agenda of the summit.
The Assembly on Wednesday unanimously passed a resolution to petition the ICC to revert the cases to be tried by the Kenyan courts or the Arusha-based East Africa Court of Justice. International law scholars, however, say the resolution is more of a political statement, not binding to the ICC.
Signature campaigns, pleas by the East African Legislative Assembly to the Council of Ministers to implore the ICC to bring the case to the East African Court of Justice that has no jurisdiction over criminal matters. I think all those are completely useless.
The Regional Assembly wants the expansion of the mandate of the East Africa Court of Justice to give it jurisdiction over criminal cases.
I guess the Assembly requested them to cause effect for the amendment to, I think it was Article 27 of the treaty, in essence, to give mandate to the East African Court of Justice to be able to look into these cases.
The persons that are now accused before the ICC have filed jurisdiction appeals. They're challenging the jurisdiction of the ICC. I think it would serve them well if, busybodies would stay out of their matter.
The region is on an overdrive to save the 4 Kenyans accused of crimes against humanity charges at The Hague. Several applications for adjournment of the cases have been made, with African Union, the highest-ranking continental body, applying for deferral of the cases several months ago, but in futility.
There are legal windows which have been open all along, ever since the processes began. And those legal windows that have been open sometimes stayed open for too long, and then they got shut.
As the region pushes for a referral of the cases, the suspects' hopes are pegged on a jurisdiction challenge filed at the Hague-based court. Sam Ogina, KTN Prime.
And that story brings us to tonight's big question. We're asking you, do you support efforts by IALA to refer the Ocampo 4 cases to Arusha?
That's the big question tonight. We're simply asking you, do you support those efforts by the East African Legislative Assembly to forward the Ocampo cases to Arusha, where they'll be solved? As always, send us your SMSs with a yes or no answer to 8040. Do you support or don't you support? 8040 is the number through which you can read us. We'll be sampling some of those comments towards the end of this bulletin.
And now joining us is KTN's Anne Soy Mwendia with more on the International Criminal Court's proceedings. Anne.
Thank you, Anne. Now, in an interesting coincidence, the International Criminal Court has constituted a court to try the 4 Kenyans facing crimes against humanity charges at The Hague. The 3 judges will hear the cases against the suspected masterminds of the 2007-2008 post-election violence. Justice Kuniko Ozaki of Japan will preside over the trial chamber 5. The other 2 are Christine Vanden Veget from Belgium and Nigeria's Chile Eboe Usuji. Now let's take a look at the backgrounds of these 3 judges of the ICC. Justice Ozaki is a professor of international law. She has served the Japanese government in various capacities in the areas of international criminal law, refugee law, and the law of human rights. She has also written extensively on these subjects. She has also served as director of treaty affairs at the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. That was between the year 2006 and the year 2009. She joined the ICC in January 2010. Now, 60-year-old Christine Vanden Veget. She's a criminal law expert from Belgium. She has served as a judge at the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. That was between the years 2003 and 2009. And she has been with the ICC from March 2009, sorry. And finally, Justice Chile Eboe Usuji of Nigeria joined the ICC actually very recently. That was last month. He worked previously as the legal advisor to the United Nations High Commission for Human Rights. The 50-year-old judge worked as prosecutor, or rather prosecution senior legal officer to the that was the prosecution legal officer to the judges at the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda between 1997 and the year 2005, and later between 2008 and 2010 as the head of chamber. He has also worked as senior prosecution appeals counsel for the Special Court for Sierra Leone. Now, just a reminder of the charges that the 4 Kenyan suspects are facing, that we have Deputy Prime Minister Uhuru Kenyatta, as well as former Head of Civil Service Francis Muthaura, who are accused of as indirect co-perpetrators of crimes against humanity, namely murder, deportation or forcible transfer, rape, persecution, and other inhumane acts. William Ruto is also accused of being an indirect co-perpetrator for murder, deportation, or forcible transfer of population, persecution. And finally, journalist Joshua Sang is accused of having contributed to the commission of murder, deportation, or forcible transfer of population and persecution. Now, the date of the trial is set to be announced, is yet to be announced. Back to you, Anne and Karani.
Thanks very much, Anne Soimwendia. The House Budget Committee has rejected the recommendations made by the Commission on Revenue Allocation over how to share the resources and revenues. Members of the committee say the formula proposed by the Commission was designed to uphold the status quo as it gives most of the developed counties the lion's share of the 200 billion shillings set aside for the 47 counties. Further, they maintain that the report was released prematurely and now they want further consultations before the Commission goes any further. KTN's Wilkison Nyabo reports on the storm that is brewing over the proposed county revenue allocation formula.
What has been cooking for months is now ready, but it is not surprising that Kenyan leaders are not satisfied.
It is an uncooked meal, and that's why we are suffering here now. You know what happens to you when you take uncooked meal.
At the heart of their dissatisfaction is apportions in the proposed formula for sharing resources across the country by the Commission on Revenue Allocation. In a formula whose details were revealed Thursday, the Commission listed parameters that would define how much each county would receive. These include the basic equal share, an amount that is uniform across the counties, the land area, fiscal responsibility, the poverty levels in the regions, and the parameter that has proved most contentious, population. 60% of the county funds will be distributed on the basis of population. According to the formula, each Kenyan is entitled to a certain uniform amount for basic services, meaning densely populated areas such as Nairobi are entitled to more money. This is a bone of contention.
What you are saying is that the towns which have bigger population, or the counties that carry bigger population, the counties that carry more resources in terms of the population, because populations come to where the resources are. So you will be sending the same huge resources to the same areas that have marginalized the rest of the country. The question then comes, are we actually trying to achieve equity?
The big cities are developed by investors. It is developed by the private sector. But government resources, is revenue of the people, must go to the poor. So Nairobi's money allocation must go to our brothers who are in the slum areas, in Kibera and Kurugwajenga. You don't use these resources to develop CPD.
Members of the Budget Committee argue that the formula is calculated to uphold the status quo. If effected, it would see Nairobi, Kakamega, Bungoma, Kiambu and Nakuru counties receive the largest allocations, while Lamu would receive the least.
The same areas that were marginalized since independence today are being given peanuts. Lamu is one of the most undeveloped counties. Tana River is one of the most undeveloped. All the issues, the parameters for socio-economic development are not there.
Further, a section of MPs point out anomalies in the population statistics used by the Commission. Ikolomani MP Boni Halwale has raised a flag about Busia County, whose funds are calculated to be shared among 488,075 persons listed by the Ministry of Planning. This number, he claims, is far lower than the reality on the ground that saw over 250,000 persons from Teso North and Teso South mistakenly counted under Bungoma County in the 2009 census.
We will not stop speaking for the minorities of this country. The people of Teso deserve their entitlement in Busia, and if Oparanya you are unable to add up in mathematics, even the little boys from the university are very good at mathematics. Step aside.
In presenting the formula and estimates CRA Chairman Mika Cheserem said Parliament would still have the last say. But this is not a satisfactory answer for the MPs who are calling for consultations and further discussions now before the report goes any further. Wilkerson Abwa, KTN Prime.
Now, before we get to sharing those resources, we have to pass through an election. The civil society has challenged the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to ensure that political parties strictly adhere to the letter and spirit of the law, this by approving candidates who meet high standards on moral probity and integrity to contest on the next general election. KTN's senior reporter, Patrick Amimo, has that story.
It would appear claims of money changing hands in Parliament cannot be wished away easily. This is what Speaker Kenneth Marende came face to face with Thursday. Marende said standing orders bar members from imputing improper motive against another without filing a substantive motion at least 3 days before discussing the conduct of that member.
Any evidence that is in the possession of any person, whether a member of this House or otherwise, will need to be presented to the committee.
Relating to events of last week and interest rates, I am aware and have been told by at least 2 members that the PNU wing of government was being paid at Pan-Afric while the ODM wing was paid at Gazebo. And these are facts.
Whether the Speaker wants to hang people or not, the fact remains this: it's no longer a secret.
The electoral body now has the backing of the Constitution through Chapter 6 on Leadership and Integrity, the Elections Act and the Political Parties Act to ensure that people seeking elective positions are of high integrity and moral standards.
Now is the turn for IEBC. Will they get the guts? Will they have the willpower to clean the political scene? I think they must sharpen the knife, and the knife must cut and cut deep.
The annual conference for the Law Society of Kenya this year is going to be under the theme of leadership and integrity, in ensuring that the electoral process then leads us to get good leadership.
In the past, Kenyans have elected leaders based on tribe, influence of community leaders, and oftentimes bribery. But the Constitution and other supporting legislation have raised the bar for public officers.
Vetting must start with the political parties and then escalated with the electoral body.
Even if we are going to begin from ground zero, we would rather build a new crop of leaders, people who act with the honesty, with the truthfulness, and when issues of their morality and integrity are raised, they take responsibility and move out of public offices.
Voters should be able to know the criminal record of candidates, if any, wealth status, moral standing, as well as any past cases of abuse of power or misappropriation of public funds. The Law Society of Kenya proposes to do this through civic education. It will soon be rolling out.
Kenyans deserve to know the contents of information that these bodies also hold on each and every individual who desires to take up leadership positions or elective positions.
Today, you have members of parliament who go to parliament, and in less than 3 months in parliament or 6 months, they are billionaires or millionaires. Where do they get that money from?
Parliament is set to pass the law on leadership and integrity, though Justice Minister Eugene Wamalwa says that is one piece of legislation his office will give top priority. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
Well, 36 people have drowned in flood waters and 42 others sustained injuries as heavy rains continue to pound the country.
The Red Cross reports that at least 2,000 people are now homeless after their homes were submerged. In flood-prone areas, families have started relocating to higher ground, anticipating flooding. Farming activities in parts of the North Rift have also been affected as tractors cannot plow soggy soil.
Roads are blocked. They are flooded. You cannot drive easily. A lot of times we are getting stuck in water.
Some more unhappy news. 10 people have died in 2 separate road accidents in Nairobi and in Mombasa.
4 people were killed along Thika Road early this morning, while 6 others died at Makinon area of Mombasa. The Thika Road accident occurred this morning near Clayworks when a speeding truck rammed into a packed matatu. The accident happened during the morning downpour that also reduced visibility on the new superhighway. Eyewitnesses say the matatu had stopped following a mechanical problem. The conductor of the matatu was in the process of refunding fares to the passengers when the truck rammed into the matatu, killing the 4 on the spot.
Well, witnesses said 7 others who sustained serious injuries were rushed to nearby hospitals. The Thika Road accident follows last Saturday's accident in which 10 people were killed.
Ilikuwa imeenda kagonga hiyo kachuma ikapenduka kuangalia pande yetu, ndio tukaigonga. Sasa wakati tuna bado kabla hata hiyo gari nyingine haijemove hapo, kuna garori nakumbuka tu hapo, naweza kukumbuka hapo, ndio na garori ikaacha ikafunga brake, nafikiri ndio ikatusweep pamoja na hiyo.
Out of the vehicles, there were those passengers who were negotiating to be refunded their fare. So the lorry crashed those 4 male adults who were initially they were in the matatu. By the time the accident occurred, they were out of the matatu. So this is very sad news. We are very sorry for what has happened to those families and also to those who have been injured.
Well, in a significant move, you will now get your national identity cards, birth certificates and passports also from one office. This follows the move by the Ministry of Immigration to centralize issuance of the documents under a new autonomous agency.
Our Immigration Minister Otieno Kajwang says this is in line with the new constitution. KTN's Fred Omulo spoke with the minister and brings us this story.
Kenya's registration services are set for a revolution that will see the issuance of identity cards and passports simplified and made more efficient. Kajwang says the ministry is in the process of recruiting a board that will run the corporation.
The Public Service Commission has conducted interviews for the chairman, who is not non-executive. The interviews are over. I'm sure the Public Service Commission has settled on somebody. But they are yet to advise the president to appoint. So we are waiting for the Gazette notice from the office of the president.
The Kenya Citizens and Foreign Nationals Management Service will, among other things, undertake registration of births and deaths, marriages, people and travel documents. The service will create a semi-autonomous organization that will integrate and run all registration processes under one roof.
We will expect all departments to work now under the new agency, and the first job of the board will be to appoint a chief executive who will then run the services altogether.
At the same time, the minister also revealed that the ministry is in the process of issuing 3 million new identity cards to meet a 5 million target.
We have launched a mobile registration to reach out to people in remote areas which could not access these services. And that is an expensive exercise. The government has just given us 300 million from the supplementary estimates. I'm sure we'll soon be accessing it. We are expecting a further 1 billion when the budget is read and approved.
This will enable more Kenyans to participate in next year's general elections, after which new generation identity cards will be issued. For KTN Prime, I am Fred Omulo.
Let's remind you tonight's big question. This is it. We're asking whether you support efforts by IALA to refer the Ocampo 4 cases to Arusha.
Let me just repeat that for you. Do you support the move by the East African Legislative Assembly to push for these cases to be moved from The Hague to Arusha? Send us your yes or no comments, followed by that to 8040. We'll sample some of those comments at the end of this live newscast.
Well, you are watching KTN Prime just ahead.
The world praises Taylor's conviction.
Brewery Limited, leaders in quality. And now, introducing another one from Home of Quality. Triple distilled Crescent Vodka, now available. The home of quality. Truly Kenyan.
Habari Afrika, leo tutatumia nguo hii kuweka Ariel katika jaribio gumu zaidi. Tutatumia kovu sugu zaidi, dua la mchuzi. Dua hili upenye zaidi ndani ya nguo na kuliondoa kwa mosho moja huonekana haiwezekani. Tutapasua nguo hii katika vipande viwili. Tutaosha kipande kimoja kwa sabuni ya unga ya kawaida na kingine kwa sabuni mpya ya Ariel iliyo na micro cleaning boosters. Ariel mpya hupenya ndani zaidi na kuondoa madoa sugu kwa mosho mmoja. Je, Ariel imeondoa kwa mosho mmoja? Na sabuni ya unga ya kawaida? Tuipe sabuni ya unga ya kawaida mara ya pili. Na baada ya mosho wa pili? Kwa hiyo, nani ameshinda jaribio la mosho mmoja? Ariel mpya, matokeo bora kwa mosho mmoja.
Baba boy, tumeoshago na jao ujalipa dhitima na unafaa kulipa dhitima before deadline. Najua utachukua shortcut kwa neighbor uruke feji. Wewe utaikibia hivyo juu dogi zitafunguliwa. Sasa kuweka hiyo dogi utapata ukilika tu utamsha nyuki. Lipa hizo nyuki na kulipa kwa riba. Ukilipa kwa riba za zako za mtumba zitaharibika. Zikiharibika utakaa baa, hakuna gari itakubeba. Na juu basikeli haina bio utafika rate. Na hiyo tutakatiwa sitima kwa sababu wewe haukulipa on time.
Ya mama boy, kulipa siku hizi ni easy pay.
Avoid the hustle. Avoid the queues. Pay your electricity bill 2 days before the due date or earlier at any Easy Pay point anywhere in Kenya.
Baba boy, yani bado nakunywa chai wewe. Nani atakamua ng'ombe, apatie buzi mereo, afugulie.
From the seaside to the lakeside, from the mountains to the valleys, from the bright lights to the far north. No matter what the job, no matter where it takes you. Test drive one or more of Nissan's range of pickups at your nearest DT Dobby dealer. Nani kama Nissan. Natural beer, sugar-free, truly Kenyan.
Kabarak University is a Christian university located 20 kilometers from Nakuru town. The serene environment at Kabarak is conducive for learning. It is equipped with modern learning facilities and equipment, including a state-of-the-art library. May 2012 intake is on. Register for graduate or undergraduate programs in the School of Business, School of Law, Science, Engineering and Technology, and School of Theology, Education and Arts. Kabarak University, world-class education in biblical perspective.
Here at Viceroy, we never stop passionately crafting our barrels and maturing our brandy the traditional way. So you can keep on enjoying it. Escape to freedom. Here life is full of flavor. Where you can enjoy good health and some of the best food found anywhere.
You belong to me, and I belong to you.
Welcome to Pwani Life.
Welcome back. You're still watching KTN Prime.
The Kalenjin Council of Elders say that their community does not support any member of parliament as a preferred presidential candidate. The leaders said in a statement that the council has resolved to recognize and respect all political parties, in particular their flag bearers. The leaders have made an about turn, saying they do not endorse Eldoret North Member of Parliament William Ruto as the community's preferred presidential candidate. Here's more details on that story.
The Kalenjin Council of Elders, commonly referred to as the Myot Council, met in Eldoret today to elect a new chairman and at the same time to declare that the council remains non-partisan to political parties and will not endorse any politician as a preferred presidential candidate.
You see, there were two meetings in Eldoret. One for the Council of Elders on Monday, and then on Tuesday, it was a meeting of all the members of the community from several places. Now, if one of the members proposed, it should not be confined to Council of Elders.
It is, however, a contradiction to a statement made early this month. The Kalenjin Council was part of the Kamatusa meeting in Eldoret that saw the endorsing of Eldoret North Member of Parliament William Ruto as the community's preferred presidential candidate.
We therefore endorse the Kalenjin leadership led by Honorable William Ruto as their leader.
At the Kamatusa, the leaders had declared that they would tell the athletes to boycott the much-anticipated Olympics set for July this year, but now they seem to have had a change of heart.
We want to bless our children, the athletes, and wish them all the success in the forthcoming Olympic Games in London.
The elders say their change of heart is as a result of the meeting where they met as new office bearers. Reporting for KTN in the county of Uasin Gishu, I'm Mercy Kandie.
Let's go to one of the biggest stories internationally, and human rights groups have welcomed the guilty verdict against former Liberian leader Charles Taylor. The UN-backed Special Court for Sierra Leone in The Hague said he aided and abetted war crimes during the Sierra Leonean civil war. Amnesty International, in particular, has said the verdict sent an important message to all high-ranking state officials, while victims in Sierra Leone said justice had finally been done.
A Human Rights Watch official said the sentence was an incredibly significant decision, while Amnesty International said the verdict sent an important message to all high-ranking state officials.
Children under the
Taylor, who was facing 11 counts of murder, was found guilty of aiding and abetting war crimes during the Civil War.
Where there is peace, there is confidence, and confidence will influence the investments and other things.
Throughout his 6-year trial, Taylor denied the charges and insisted he tried to bring peace to the region with the argument that his trial was a politically motivated conspiracy by Western nations. Tens of thousands were killed in the 1991 to 2002 Sierra Leone Civil War. Prosecuting Taylor proved how hard it is to bring leaders to justice. He fled into exile in Nigeria after being indicted in 2003 and wasn't arrested for 3 years. Sentencing is scheduled for May 30, 2012. Reports say the special court may not impose a life sentence or the death penalty, but could hand Taylor a lengthy term in a British prison. For KTN Prime, I'm Joy Doreen Bira.
South Sudan, embroiled in border fighting with its northern neighbor Sudan for the past month, says that Sudanese-backed rebel militia had attacked a town in the south's oil-producing Upper Nile state.
Well, the conflict does seem to be broadening, but meanwhile, Sudan's government has ordered its civil servants to donate part of their salaries. This to support the army. Sudan's Finance Minister Ali Mahmoud al-Rasul has also cut the petrol rations of government departments by 50%.
Heglig, the disputed oil region, has been badly damaged following recent clashes between neighbors Sudan and southern Sudan, leaving South Sudan in short supply thereafter. One crude oil processing and storage center in Heglig was almost completely destroyed, with several of its oil tanks and pipelines exploding, causing crude oil leakages.
The gas stations in Juba, South Sudan's capital, are currently still plagued by characteristically long queues, but despite the shortages, oil prices have maintained a stable level. An accumulated survey shows that nearly half of the oil used in Sudan comes from the oil-rich Heglig region. Some analysts now say that although South Sudan has left Heglig, they were able to realize their aim of destroying Sudan's economic lifeline. The Heglig oil field lies north of the border between Sudan and South Sudan and is the Sudan's largest oil field. South Sudan's military occupied the oil field on April 10, began the battle with Sudan, and 10 days later, South Sudan withdrew from the Heglig region before Sudan declared its control over the oil field on the same day. Fighting along the 1,800-kilometer contested border in what was once Africa's largest erupted in late March after Sudan and South Sudan failed to resolve a number of contentious issues following oil export fees and citizenship. The skirmishes have threatened to escalate into a full-blown conflict which neither can afford. Both economies have suffered from the shutdown of most of the oil production as a result of the conflict. Joy Doreen Bira, KTN Prime.
Time to take a break. When we return, all the business news. Karan, you've got that.
Yeah, I'll be coming back with the business and a very big story coming out of Ruaraka from the East African Brewery. Stay tuned for that. We'll be telling you what this developing story is. That after the break.
Government resources is revenue of the people must go to the poor. So Nairobi's money allocation must go to our brothers who are in the slum areas, in Kibera, in Kurugwajenga. You don't use these resources to develop CPD.
Tudu hivi mkiota hata kalita panganga hapa ati ho he mara that tumnyime kura kwa tadu.
Life is great, life is unbelievable, life is hard, life is cruel, life is so beautiful. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Hiyo na hapa kwa jina langu na wabeste wangu wote warudi na nyinyi wenye nchi wa Kenya sasa.
Escape to freedom. This is a clean, happy place full of hope, where you can enjoy good health and new beginnings.
You belong to me, and I belong to you.
Welcome to Pwani Life. Here at Viceroy, we never stop passionately crafting our barrels and maturing our brandy the traditional way. Viceroy Cocktails. Viceroy Alexander. The ingredients are 10 milliliters of chocolate syrup, 35 milliliters of Viceroy brandy, 20 milliliters of creme de cacao, and 25 milliliters of fresh cream. Combine the ingredients with ice into a cocktail shaker. Shake well. Strain into a chilled cocktail glass and garnish with a sprinkle of grated nutmeg, so you can keep on enjoying it.
We started at 27 billion shillings a turnover. We've grown up to 85 billion shillings turnover now. That's $1 billion turnover. Taking into consideration a number of limitations that we've had. One is, of course, you need money to buy aircraft or lease them. Second one is availability of pilots, and we took a deliberate decision to start training our own pilots ourselves. And the other concern is, of course, the airport and the bilateral air service agreements between us and the various countries that we operate in. That has been quite positive, and we are very, very bullish going forward.
Kenya Airways, the pride of Africa. Natural beer, sugar-free, truly.
That may be good enough for these chaps, but just tougher. You need advanced protection. Lifebuoy Advanced Lifebuoy gives protection against 10 infection-causing germs. 10 infection-causing germs. 1 advanced protection. Lifebuoy.
Well, indeed, welcome back. Time for the business. The tea industry is at crossroads over the introduction of a 2 shillings and 50 cents ad valorem levy per kilogram of tea. While the Tea Board of Kenya says this levy is aimed at boosting industry prospects, the Kenya Tea Development Authority has termed this levy as counterproductive. Firms are now threatening to go to the streets, arguing this will make their tea more expensive and less competitive.
Kenya Tea Development Agency KTDA board member Gerald Munene accuses government of hiking the levy from 46 cents per kilogram of Kenyan-made tea to 2 shillings and 50 cents at the auction, representing a 500% increment, a move that he says will erode achievement made so far, and pointed an accusing finger to the Tea Board of Kenya for being behind the introduction of the levy.
The directors of Kirinyaga are requesting the government to consider that, otherwise the farmers will start reacting to that charge.
Munene further notes that the Tea Board of Kenya was currently receiving 98 million shillings from the processed tea, and if the exorbitant hike is allowed, the Tea Board of Kenya will be receiving a whopping 500 million shillings per year at the expense of farmers, who are now threatening to take to the streets if the move is not reversed. These moves come at a time when the Industrialization Ministry is reviewing the Geographical Indications Bill, which provides a legal framework for safeguarding products like tea, coffee and handicrafts by expressly attributing them to the Kenyan origin, a move that will see both farmers and artists earn more. Philip Ketan for KTN Business Today.
Well, let's go to the developing story that I mentioned just before we went to the break. It's coming out of Ruaraka, and the East African Breweries Limited Managing Director, Seni Adetu, is expected to leave the company on July the 1st, 2012. According to the Reuters news agency, Adetu will leave to head Guinness, Nigeria. The company said on Friday. Devlin Hainsworth, the managing director of Guinness, Nigeria, the news agency says will be taking over from Adetu. Adetu was appointed in July 2009, replacing Gerald Mahinda. Before his appointment to head the Kenyan operations, Adetu was the managing director, Guinness Ghana Breweries Limited. Well, you might have been asking why you're losing power once in a while, sometimes even for half a day. The Kenya Power is now saying that it's officially reporting increased cases of vandalism on its transformers and transmission lines. This, it says, is hampering its service delivery. So far, the firm notes it spent close to 370 million shillings in repairs and now wants stiffer penalties imposed on vandals.
The onset of the long rains is usually expected to spell a period of increased power production. This has, however, not been the case since the start of the month, with frequent power outages reported on a daily basis, raising serious questions on the capacity of Kenya Power to distribute electricity. The company, however, says the frequent blackouts are as a result of vandals who have made away with over 700 transformers, affecting power supply. With peak demand soaring to 1,236 megawatts, slight interruption is having a huge impact on the country's economy. Kenya Power estimates the loss to the economy at between 2.5 and 3 billion shillings and has now joined the fray in calling for the fast tracking of a bill that will classify vandalism as an economic crime, attracting heavier penalties on offenders.
If we were to bring in the cost of lost sales because of that vandalism, it could possibly be almost 1 billion loss to Kenya Power. If we go further and take the losses that our customers or the economy has lost because of this vandalism, we will not be talking of anything less than another 2.5 or 3 billion Kenya shillings.
The MD spoke during the opening of a 23 MV substation in Kisumu to enhance power transmission to the lakeside city. Michael Karanja, KTN Business Today.
Let's take a look at other stories that made it to business this evening.
Kenya Orient Insurance has launched a customer experience center at the company's head office at Capitol Hill Center. With an objective to cater to customer service standard, the company hit the 1 billion mark in premium production, a 33% growth from the previous year. The Kenya Orient has recently opened a second branch in Mombasa, Nyeri, Eldoret and Kisumu. Toyota Shusho Company has unveiled a multi-operational showroom in Nairobi. The Toyotsu Automat Limited was established for the purpose of retail and reservicing of pre-owned Toyota vehicles. The Automat will sell Toyota, Hino, Daihatsu and Subaru brands, with customers having the option of buying in-house stock from the pre-ordered units. The company also seeks to remarket fleet and individually owned Toyotas. And finally, motor vehicle dealer DT Dobby has launched the Nissan Almera into the Kenyan market. The additional saloon model is targeted for fleet, SME and individual buyers within the country's ballooning middle class. The model is available in the Almera and Almera 1.5-litre manual and automatic, complete with audio controls positioned on the steering wheel, an anti-braking system and halogen brake lamps. Boni Tunya for KTN Business Today.
Let's take a look at how the Kenyan shilling performed, and it does continue to be supported by that 5 billion shilling 2-year bond released by the government. It was issued officially in the market starting on Wednesday. The government received about 11.9 billion shillings. It was looking for only 5 billion shillings, so obviously they took only that 5 billion. The average rate on this bond is going to be about 14.9%. Now, something to watch. It does seem as if the markets had factored in this, because we didn't see the Kenyan shilling becoming way stronger. It still does remain within this particular range. Yesterday, you remember, it was 83 shillings and 18 cents, 2 cents stronger, not even 2 cents. Just a fraction of a shilling stronger. In terms of the selling price, 83 shillings and 33 cents. Something to watch out for is the fact that the government's yields are getting lower and lower. This might keep away international investors, and that might have an effect when it comes to the Kenyan shilling. Otherwise, you can see how the pound sterling did and the euro. Finally, that's it for the look at how the Kenyan shilling performed. Let's move to the NSE, where for a 7th day, the 7th straight day, the NSE was down. Let's take a look at the rest of these figures.
Here at Viceroy, we never stop passionately crafting our barrels and maturing our brandy the traditional way. Viceroy Cocktails.
Viceroy Alexander. The ingredients are 10 milliliters of chocolate syrup, 35 milliliters of Viceroy brandy, 20 milliliters of creme de cacao, and 25 milliliters of fresh cream. Combine the ingredients with ice into a cocktail shaker. Shake well. Strain into a chilled cocktail glass and garnish with a sprinkle of grated nutmeg.
So you can keep on enjoying it.
Je, unapenda na kuelewa vyema kabumbu?
Basi chukua mic.
Bonga boli katika ulimwengu wako wa mabingwa Super Sport.
Anakwenda tena, anakwenda goal. Chenga moja lakini goal. Goal. Inakuwa ni nguo kuchanika na nyasi kuumia. Vijana wa AFC Leopards wanafunga na kufanya mambo kuwa 1-0, ndio hivyo.
Nairobi mnaweza. Karibuni Nakumatt Prestige Mall kuanzia tarehe 26 hadi 29 saa 3 hadi saa 12 jioni. Hii ni nafasi yako ya kujiunga na ulimwengu wa mabingwa Super Sport.
Okay, mwenye nafaa kublemiwa kuna tuwezi sema ni mtu yoyote cause hao watu wawili wako na fault. Jukati ile anafaa kwa prepared, anafaa kwa najua zile consequences atafisa akipata ball. Na Charlie pia anafaa kwa responsible.
Hata mimi naona tu ni both cause wangekuwa serious ama wangekuwa napendana, wangekaa wa agree before wafanye hivyo, ama wafanye sex.
Dem akiget pregnant afai kublame Charlie. Sababu angesema yeye itumiwe. Yeye angesema itumiwe kama kwa ready to get pregnant. And if the man was not ready, hata yeye angesema.
Welcome to KTN Sports.